What's up? What's up? How y'all doing tonight? Friday night, thank goodness. What in the world? Why you, man? Don't be
Don't be
messing.
bothering me.
I ain't introduced you yet, and
Yeah,
you
you don't
messing
have to be.
things
Yeah,
up.
I was just checking this
But
out.
don't be checking,
Oh, okay.
man. I ought to slap you.
Yeah, well,
You
you
better be
just get
glad
on
there's a
about your
table.
business. Get on
Oh,
about your
you just
business.
messed it up now.
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
yeah. Wow, wow. That's ridiculous, man.
No.
Ridiculous. Anyway, how are y'all tonight? As you can see, I got Sons of Arthritis with me. Uh, uh, anyway, it's Friday, and I'm back at the crib. Boss man hanging out with us. Got the Eco X gear just hanging out, illuminating.
That's what
Ah,
I'm
yeah,
talking about.
yeah. Get
Old
up
man.
on it.
Old man.
Get up on it. Make sure that mic's
Okay. All
okay.
right. I'm right
There
up
you
in here.
go.
There you go. There you
Uh-huh.
go.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I mean, I know you got drink your old people
Oh, yeah.
juice,
Yeah. Old people stuff.
old people stuff. Anyway, so since I'm back in the shop, always shout out Okeechobee Rustic Company, Stinky Stompers. Now, I don't know if she ordered it, but my sister hit me up and said, "Hey, my friend seen your uh, podcast and wants to know where to get Stinky Stompers." I'm telling you, ladies and guys, but ladies, if you're tired of smelling that swamp ass that your husband when he takes off them work boots and it stinks up that mud room or the living room or even the car, I'm telling you, let him spray this in his boot before he goes to work. Telling you, helps a lot. It helps a lot. It masks the swamp ass. Anyway, so back at it, and we are gonna start doing this series. We may do like a pre-record and start, and showing it on Tuesday night. We'll pre-record it Tuesday night or maybe Thursday night, but want to get started tonight. Again, it because I don't have anybody working with me. It's kind of hard to get lined up and finding time to do these interviews I want to do. I still got a couple down in the Keys that they've said yes. I just got to find time to get down there, stuff like that.
Right. Right.
And then life gets in the way too. Always, always life gets in the way. So
Everybody's busy.
yeah, that's right. That's right. Um, so this little series, uh, he called it the Savage Clan. I called it the Savage Family, and we're gonna start talking about. It's basically the history of Florida. I mean, it's part of
Yeah, it's
history,
part of
part
part
of
of the history.
history, and 7 generations back. We're going to be doing some reading out of this is the Savage Family Cookbook um, that was put together by one of your aunts, right?
Yeah, one of my cousins.
Was it a cousin? Was she a
Yeah,
cousin?
it's one of my cousins.
Okay.
It was Ellen English. She became Ellen Schwartz.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it goes back, even got certificates of the Indian Wars and
Right.
everything.
Right.
So, and I'll mention some things, read some things, and then he's going to tell the stories as he saw it. Now, some of the family, if they end up watching this,
Yeah.
they may have
Yeah.
saw it a different way. And if they did, just shoot an email. That is outside the page 24 at gmail.com. So, or 25, might be 25. Crap, I got to look. Anyway, I think it's outside the page 25 at gmail.com. You know, if he's going to be talking about it from his standpoint, and then once we get past that, we'll get into stories when we lived here in Lake Placid and
Oh,
working
okay.
cattle
Okay.
and FEI.
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
we
Oh
got
yeah.
a
Yeah.
lot of stories,
Yeah.
FEI
Yeah.
stories, a lot of FEI stories.
I do want to say and make sure everybody understands. Some of these stories has to do with me as a child being involved in my grandfather, and this is the Savage clan is all on my mama's side, and there's
Yeah,
people come down here. They talk about I'm a Florida native. There's
yeah,
a world of difference between a Florida native
uh huh,
and a cracker.
yeah,
And
uh,
now crackers can be um, it can be used in the negative, in
mm-hmm.
the negative, uh, you know, white trash. That's
Right,
what they were known as. But
right, right,
Florida cracker, to us, the Florida cracker cowboy, is a heritage
right,
that stems all the way back since the founding of it. And like you say, you're seventh generation, I'm sixth generation.
yeah,
Uh, and these were some characters that were a part of Florida history, good or bad.
right,
Some of these stories
yeah,
and some of these
yeah,
things I've either heard or actually saw,
yeah.
not not
That
necessarily all that great,
yeah, they
but
ain't that great, but
no,
yeah,
no. But um, they're the part of your
yeah,
heritage. They're a
that's right,
part of you.
that's right.
You know.
Yeah, so don't let I might have inherited that bad side, so just
No.
might want to stay clear.
Yeah.
Stay
Yeah.
clear.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So anyway, now I will have to take the shades off because you want me to read stuff.
Oh well, I
And
can see. I can read it
uh,
because I have glasses that
yeah,
you know.
well,
You're pitiful.
yeah,
Yeah, that's a young person.
yeah, that's right.
I'm
Look,
cool.
look, look. I
Look,
know we're
now
getting.
you look
Hey,
like an old
I
person.
know I'm getting old when we're at golf league, and my boy Darren hooks a DeWalt fan to the windshield of the cart
No, he did not.
so he could stay cool. And then Mike and another guy had two of them, looked like big old speakers, and it was just fans to blow on them. I was like,
Is that not
I lo-
pitiful?
he hooked that up. I was like, hey man, that's old people stuff. He said, I don't care. I don't care. I said,
Hey,
that's old people stuff too.
yeah, but here's the
Yeah,
difference.
yeah,
If, of course I don't play golf,
yeah,
but if I had gone out there with you in a golf cart
yeah.
and you wanted to start playing golf, you wouldn't even do that for your daddy. Put fans all in
No,
there and
no,
everything. No,
no, no. I
you'd say
mean,
you in the shade with this top over the golf cart. You don't need anything else.
I'm a cracker. I'm a dude. We do things. I mean, just sweat. I mean,
That's it.
that's
Sweat.
why I got stinky stompers. Thank goodness. Okeechobee Rusted Company. Yeah, you like that little plug right there? Yeah.
All right, so
All right.
it's interesting.
Yeah.
Now, understand when he reads this about our history, we don't know what happened after that. This is this is just where we supposedly had come from.
Yeah. So yeah, it starts off Clark's family. So you're going you might even hear your family's last name at some point in
At some
here.
point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because Savage, Canada, Clark,
Yates,
Yates, Paget,
Paget, yeah.
go from Christmas all the way down to what West Palm.
Well, I'll tell you this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I always tell people the reason I married your mama is because her daddy was from Oklahoma and her mother was from New York, Long Island, and they were out of state. I said the reason I married your mama because her parents were out of state, and I was worried about marrying my cousin. Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I
yeah,
had to get somebody out of state because I didn't want to
yeah,
marry my cousin.
yeah. Can I see your genealogy
Yeah, there
first?
you go.
Yeah. Who
We got a
I mean, we need
middlebred.
to go back at least a couple granddaddies.
Yeah, there you
Yeah, yeah.
go.
Do you want me to read? This is just an
Uh,
introduction. I mean,
just from where they
that
came from.
that starts the savage, the savages of
Okay, yeah,
Okay,
that'd be the best because
all
that's
right,
what we're going to be talking
yeah.
about.
So, all right, so this cookbook is not only recipes, cracker
Right,
recipes,
right,
but it's a genealogy book too.
right, right.
And it goes back to 1177 AD.
Wow.
That's
Wow.
so. Uh, the savages of Portaferry were an ancient family established in Ireland under Sir John de Courcy, Earl of Ulster, AD 1177. So jump from there to Thomas Savage came from England as a cabin boy on a ship, and Thomas Savage lived from 1592 to 1627. He was a cabin boy on a ship in January 1608 to the state of Virginia. He was given by the ship's captain to the Indian chief Padawan, which was Pocahontas's father, who called him son, gave him land, and he became the first landowner in Virginia. He was also an Indian interpreter. He was an immigrant with no resources, no education beyond childhood. Still, he won respect and importance in the history of our country.
That's interesting.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and again, you don't I'm ancestry.com. You
Right,
like to
right,
trace
right.
your back to where this side of the savages that came.
Yeah,
You'd like to say when somebody talks about the purity of or names, they won't
right,
love to
right,
bring up old names and
right,
everything.
right, right.
Well, we go all the way back to Pocahontas,
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
But now I got a feeling that our side of that savage
Yeah,
clan may have very well been an outcast. You know
yeah,
what I'm
yeah.
saying?
That's right. They were the black sheep
Yeah, yeah.
of the Savage
I don't
family.
think they
Yeah.
were.
So, from this line, from Thomas Savage line, more than 30 savages fought in the Revolution to assist in making our great nation from 1777 to 1782. The descendants are now spread over this vast land, and it will do each of us great service to keep in mind that you came from such stock and can certainly rise above adversities that seem impossible. In the following genealogy, I have been fortunate enough to get 7 generations back. Maybe some of you have more information than I, and if you do, please share it with the rest of the family.
Right.
So,
Um, a- I sit there and listen to you read that,
yeah,
um, and and that's why I think uh, it's just like we have what the savage blood in us, but why we love America. I mean, the
yeah,
people that came to this country
right,
pass it on, and it's your heritage. There's a lot to one's heritage that's not only born in America but can trace their family back 7, 8, 9 generations back, and that's why they get angry when people begin to down Americans and
yeah,
all of this bunch of stuff that's going
yeah,
on today.
right,
It's simply that it was our responsibility. We served in the service. We love America. That's what we are because of our heritage, and we get angry when someone downs it because it's simply the greatest country in the world.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
so
What was interesting in this genealogy that where she picked up in 1803, 1802. Um, most of everybody that got married and had children were from South Carolina,
yes, yes,
and then trickled ended up on when they died ended up in Florida somewhere. Is that
yeah. A
right?
lot of them came down,
Yeah,
of course,
yeah,
and especially during the Civil War, and they came down and migrated down to Florida.
yes,
You know,
yes,
but
yeah.
yeah, they came out of the
Well, I mean,
Carolinas, Georgia.
and a lot of people, if they do want to know kind of a fact fiction book, is Land Remembered on how
Absolutely.
Florida really got started.
Absolutely. That's
Yeah,
probably the most, yeah.
yeah.
If
South Carolina and Georgia. I mean, it's about a family came from Georgia and moved into Florida and started. That's what it was.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and
yeah,
it's probably the most factual fiction. I mean, as
yeah,
far as trying to live in a land that was as wild as uh, as any place in there.
breaking news
What's that?
that FBI seizes Fauci's devices. Cash Patel says tells Rogan we're on to him in COVID probe.
Wow,
Yeah.
fixing to bust open, ain't it?
Yay.
See, yeah.
Okay.
All right. So going back to that, people don't quite understand that Florida, and we'll get back to this when Florida had the first
Yeah.
cowboys. But I read at one time there were more killings in Arcadia than there was in Dodge City,
Yeah.
and that there was a time there were no fences,
Yeah.
and then when they put fence laws in,
Right.
uh, they had regulators,
Yeah.
and regulators rode the fences,
Yeah.
uh, and they were judge, jury, and executioner. They made a decision if they caught you on
Yeah.
their ranch property, they decided
Yeah.
what they do with you.
That's right.
And Florida's
Yeah.
comes from a rough,
Oh, it's rough.
you know.
I mean, and and even with this Jenny, I mean, I was telling somebody today that I mean, part of our family was the third class of the Florida Highway Patrol.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think Uncle Les
Yeah.
was what,
He
third
was
or
the
sixth?
third.
Was he
Third
third?
class. Third class of the Highway Patrol.
And he,
Yeah.
Uncle Les, kind of ended up being, I guess, troubleshooter. They'd send him
Yeah.
places need to be straightened out. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was,
Yeah.
yeah, third class of the
Oh,
Highway Patrol.
we got some. I know you got some stories because I've
Oh
heard
yeah.
you tell them. So this is just real quick. So this is how because William Henry. This is how the Yates and Savages got together.
Okay.
So James W. Savage, South Carolina, married Sarah. Let's see. Hold on. Savage genealogy. Okay. Okay. Now I got. All right. So James Savage married Sarah in South Carolina. Henry Hodges from South Carolina married Sarah Penelope Cason in Georgia. Um, James Savage's son was Robert Barnwell Savage,
Right.
uh, Co- Colleton County, South Carolina. He was born 1914. Um, and the Hodges daughter was named Sarah Hodges out of Georgia. Um, and she was born 1849. And I guess they trickled into Wolf Creek, Florida, Osceola County, and Kissimmee, Florida. Both of the kids, the kids, and then Robert Barnwell Savage and Sarah Hodges' son was William Henry Savage.
Yeah, that's yeah,
Yeah,
Grandpa Henry.
yeah. So he
Yeah.
was born Wolf Creek, Osceola County, Florida, and then moved to I think passed away in
Right,
Stewart,
right.
Martin County.
And he
All
was
right.
married to what we call
Yeah. Well,
Grandma Sis.
hold on.
Okay.
So that's William Henry Savage.
Okay.
Then you go to William Burrell Yates out of Georgia, married Lucinda Prescott out of South Carolina. Thomas Cox married Polly Cason. So William Yates, his son was John Burrell Yates, 1851, and Thomas Cox, their daughter was Elizabeth, uh, and their daughter was Elizabeth Yates, born 1873, and I guess,
Married Henry.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
died. She died in Stewart,
Right.
Florida.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's stop right there.
So wait.
All right.
So and we'll get to the William, but this is just the genealogy, and then it goes into each one. But their son, so William Savage, Elizabeth Yates, their sons were Hobby Savage
My grandfather.
was Hobby Savage,
Right.
so that was their son. Jug Creek, Osceola County.
Yep.
That's where he was
Yeah.
born. Jug Creek.
Yeah.
Yeah. Died 1980 in Martin County.
Yep.
Yep. All right. So,
So let me go back because I have memories of those. That was
and then that's their lineage.
yeah.
That's their
So
lineage. So,
so Henry and Sis, Grandma Sis and
yeah.
Grandma Henry. So I'll tell you what I know about them
Okay.
as a child. All right. So um, now again, this is a story told to me. And
Told to
that,
you
yeah.
and
This.
how you heard it.
Oh yeah. This is
That
how I
that
heard it.
that's how
So
you heard it and how it was told.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I've got a picture of them, and in
Oh
fact,
yeah.
I believe I've got uh, Grandpa Henry's walking cane.
Yeah.
So my understanding of it that I don't know if this is the reason they moved down to Stewart, but it was
Mhm.
really Indian Town. Okay,
Right.
so my understanding was that Grandma Sis
Mhm.
had Grandpa Henry had a mistress.
Uh-huh.
Okay,
Uh-huh.
and Grandma Sis knew about her.
Okay.
And then one day she just got her, I guess somebody said a 44, 45, I don't know,
Yeah.
44.
Yeah.
And she marched him down there
Yeah.
and made him go in there and get all the furniture out of the house, pile it in the yard,
And
and
burn it.
burn it. Yeah, right there, right there. And of course, she told him, I guess, that she'd kill him if he,
Yeah, went
So,
back to her or whatever.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So what I remember about two stories about Grandma Sis when they were in Indiantown was one, she dipped snuff,
Uh-huh.
and I was always scared of her. She's a mean woman. Now,
Oh,
I mean, she
well,
was a
I'm looking at the picture.
yeah.
She looks like she could whoop somebody.
Well,
Yeah.
that's let me tell you, they were tough women, had married tough
Right.
men. So she dipped snuff and spit in the Maxwell coffee can all the time. She had that. Now, from what my mama told me, um, let's go back. You were talking about the poor Indians and all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. About this guy writing in, we
Right.
mistreated Indians, all that. Okay, so of course the Seminoles, Indians, the
Right.
Creeks had
Right.
run away and they'd come to Florida and settle and all
Right.
that.
Right.
So um, at one time, um, the if a Seminole woman married a white man, the child was not accepted as
Right.
biracial
At
child,
one
and
time.
at
Yeah.
one time, and
Yeah.
biracial child and everything. Well, there was a couple that had a biracial child, or by a Frenchman, I think.
Right.
Okay, and to escape, they ran from South Florida and came to Indiantown. This is what
Yeah.
my mama told me.
Right.
Okay, and my mama was a young child back then, not
Right.
real young, but and they came to Indiantown where Grandma Sis and Henry were,
Yeah.
and the child was named Betty Mae Tiger.
Right.
Okay, so they stayed a couple of weeks there in Indiantown, and Grandma Sis and Henry protected them.
Right.
Um, and my grandmother, Hobby's wife Fanny,
Yeah.
wet nursed, wet nursed the child,
Right.
and my mama helped with them. And then from there they left, went south, and I think Betty Mae Tiger ended up being the first tribal chief of the Seminole Nation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, and I can
Woman
remember
chief.
my yeah
Woman chief.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I can remember about Grandma Sis and Grandpa
Right.
Henry. And I'm telling you that woman scare you.
Oh yeah.
I mean, if she said something to you, you did it.
I mean, I'm
You know.
scared looking at the picture.
Well,
You know.
uh,
But yeah, I mean, I can picture them because, I mean, you think about it. One, if you've read If you can read and picture what you're reading while you're reading it,
Yeah.
picture if the author's good, you can picture yourself or picture the scene that he's talking about, and how they had to live back then. There wasn't no air condition. There
Oh,
wasn't no, none of that. And the women, uh, the women had to do a lot while the man was away trying to make anything.
oh,
You know,
absolutely. And they lived off the land a
yeah.
great deal. It would be very difficult. This nation would go under if they had the.
Half the people would die.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely. They'd be outlawed, all that kind of stuff. But I don't think physically,
yeah,
I don't think they could make it.
yeah.
And I'm not disallowing for those in the cities because they
R-
had to wash and take
Right,
in
right,
wash and all that
right.
kind of stuff. I just don't think they have that pioneer
No,
stamina
no.
that they couldn't. They wouldn't know.
the
First of
the
all,
only ones that could are the ones that live in the country
right,
or the working class that actually
blue
are in the
collar,
blue collar
yeah,
in the ditches. They gonna find something,
absolutely,
figure out something.
absolutely.
The city people, that those are the ones I'd worry about. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah,
If something ever happened.
yeah, yeah.
Um. So let's see how we want to.
Well, if you want to,
Okay, so let's finish this one
okay, okay.
because the next one we can do the next time is the Canada genealogy. So this
Well,
is a savage.
yeah, that's the Savage Bunch married to Elizabeth Yates.
Yeah, but then she goes into the Canada genealogy.
Okay, now the Canadas came in through my grandmother
Yes, yes,
that was
yeah,
married to my grandfather.
yeah, yeah,
And I don't know a great deal
yeah,
about them.
yeah. So
Uh,
you're gonna learn.
oh,
You're
okay.
gonna learn
I mean,
genealogy.
yeah, oh, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, you ain't got to talk about that. That's just basically this has it all comes down to Hobby marrying Fanny.
yeah, okay.
Okay, so that's why she has the Canada genealogy in here because it ties in with your granddad.
Right, right.
You know
Well,
what I'm saying?
yeah, and when we get, but my stories will be more
I
about
I
the
know, I
Savage, the
know,
brothers, and all that.
I know.
Okay,
I'm telling you,
okay. Tell me.
Canada. This is the book. This is the cookbook.
I know. I've read that a
Okay,
bunch of times.
okay. But we're gonna read at
Okay.
least the Canada because it ties into who you are.
Right,
Okay.
right.
All right. So let me finish with the William Savage, Henry Savage, and Grandma Sis.
Right.
Okay. Elizabeth Yates. All right. So y'all we know about them. So their children was Barney Savage, Henry Barney Savage,
Right.
um, married Brady Lamb, and their children was Janie Bell and Belle Savage. Is that right?
Yes, I Aunt Bell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which Belle married Elmer Paget,
Yes.
which we'll get to that, and their children was Gladys and Cordell. Elmer's first marriage. All right.
Right. Right.
So, all right, then Myrtle Savage married let's see, hold on. This is very confusing. Okay, okay. So I'm still on there. So Belle Savage, let's see, their children, Janie Bell, Belle S. Savage. She married Elmer. Then you had Myrtle Savage. That was Barney's daughters, Belle and Myrtle.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Then William Hobson Savage married Fanny Canada.
Right.
Their children was Elsie, Helen, Louise, Callie, Norma Lavelle,
Yeah.
Effie Elizabeth, Vera Madeline, and Frances Inez. So all girls.
Yes. Yes.
Blessing.
One died. I think Frances died when she was 3.
Yeah, but
But
bless
yeah,
Hobby.
yeah,
Bless Hobby. All women.
all of
All
them.
women.
And I don't ever remember seeing my granddaddy with a full head of hair, and
Yeah.
now I know why. I don't. I don't
Yeah.
remember
Yeah.
seeing.
Yeah.
And
I mean, but you talk about some tough women.
oh,
Oh,
on a cowboy's pay, and Grandma didn't work.
yeah. Yeah. And Fanny she wasn't like extremely nice. I mean, she was a tough woman
Oh
too.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Grandma was tough, but I'm saying that here you have a man. Now here's something else that we don't realize on all of these uh, old timers, our heritage and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Like the Savage name on Grandpa's side stopped right there with him
Yes.
because he
Yes.
never had a son
Right.
to pass it on.
Right.
So and so a lot of these old timers that we talk
Yeah.
about and things like Boney and things
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Well, there were those that only had a girl
Yeah.
and no son.
Right.
So on that side,
Yeah.
the Boney name stopped.
Right. Right.
You know,
All right. So then you had Daisy Savage,
Aunt
which
Daisy.
married Arthur Roll. Their children was Artie Cullen, Emily Jane, uh, and John. Then Claddy Savage married Lily Ludlam.
Ludlam. Yeah.
Ludlam. Their children were Evelyn, Velma
Yep.
Udine, Aubrey Henry, and Rebecca Jane. I know you got plenty of Aubrey
Oh,
stories.
good Lord.
And then you had Thelma Savage, married and divorced Bill Franklin. Their child was Lois. Both of them are, I guess, William and Sis is buried at Fern Hill Cemetery in Stewart, Florida. That's what it says. So, anyway, that's the end of that genealogy. The next time we'll get to the Canadas that ties into Hobby and Fanny, and then
Yeah.
the stories
Yeah.
can go from there. But I mean, we can talk. I mean, talk a little bit about Barney and Claddy.
Okay. Um, I'd like to find the part if I can find another story more on Barney than
Yeah,
anything. So
and you have the old picture
of the three brothers,
of
yeah,
the three
yeah,
brothers,
with the
Hobby,
Barney,
Barney, and Claddy.
right, right.
I mean, it's an epic photo.
Um, Let me
True,
see.
true cracker photo. Oh yeah,
I'm telling you, that's bad as crackers get.
yeah,
So, um, Uncle Buddy. Now, Claddy Savage, I call him as a child. I call him Buddy Papa. I don't even know where that came
yeah,
from, but he was always Buddy Papa to me, or Uncle Buddy. And they lived in Martin County. Um, he was Uncle Buddy was kind of he probably about my size. He's about 5'6", five
yeah.
seven. They, the Savages weren't real big men.
No, no.
Um, so he was stocky, and he was the type that kind of like old gunfighter.
Yeah,
There were people that would come in the town uh, to whip him.
yeah,
If you could whip Claddy Savage, you were tough.
yeah, yeah.
And I can remember men telling me watching him, they had little flour barrels,
Uh huh.
the little wooden flour barrel.
Right.
Uh, Said he'd put his hands behind his back, catch him in his teeth, snap him over his neck because his neck was so strong. Now
Yeah,
I can't
yeah,
fathom that.
yeah,
So anyway, one of the stories of many, and we'll talk about Claddy tonight. One of the stories was back in I think 28 or something like that, when Okeechobee had the big hurricane that flooded, overran its banks, and over 1,000 people were killed. And
yeah,
they brought in a dredge that put the dike around Okeechobee, Lake Okeechobee. My mother was engaged to a rancher in Okeechobee, and to the point the invitation for sent, the
Yeah,
china was
right,
bought
right.
and everything. My daddy was a deckhand on that dredge,
Yeah.
and so I don't know. Daddy was
Player.
a player. So
He was a player.
a player,
Yeah.
player. So he ended up, Mama ended up running off with Daddy. That's how I came to be.
Oh,
Now, the unique thing about it, 40 years later, I actually worked cattle for that man she was engaged to.
yeah.
So my daddy was he was over six, and he was a tough man. He
Yeah.
was known,
Yeah.
and so Uncle Buddy had that reputation. Now we're talking about, I don't know, back in the 44 I was born. Maybe I was a little kid
Yeah.
then. I don't know. But there was a man that came from Okeechobee over to Stewart to pay Uncle Buddy $25. Now you imagine
Uh-huh.
what $25
Right,
was back
right,
then.
right.
$25 to go back to Okeechobee and whip a man by the name of Jess Page. And he didn't know that Mama had married Daddy, you
Yeah,
know that,
yeah, yeah.
and he told him, said, "Son, I can't do that. That's my new
Yeah.
in-law." But he wanted to know why, why he wanted to pay him to go back and whip him. Well, come find out, Dad and him got in an argument, and he pulled a pistol on Dad. And
Uh-huh.
Dad took it away from him and slapped him down, which is the ultimate insult to to a man to be
Yeah.
slapped down. That just says you ain't man enough to
Yeah.
be in.
Yeah, yeah.
But can you? I can't even fathom. And I listen. I've watched stuff my daddy,
Yeah.
but I can't fathom man pulling a pistol on you
Yeah.
and him take it away and just slap him down.
like like man, what you
Yeah.
bring in a little pea shooter? Yeah.
So anyway, Uncle Buddy, um, he was just old cowboy and everything. Aunt Lily, who he married, she worked at a flower farm there in Stewart. I
Uh-huh.
can't think of the name of it. And they used to make a joke. Aunt Lily would go to work, and she'd have to put his chair out in the yard so he'd get some sunlight. He'd stay in the house all day. But Aunt Lily, during that period of time, many years ago, uh, working at the flower farm, she'd buy up land.
Yeah.
She'd buy land, buy land, buy land. And ultimately they sold, and at that time, I guess 300 something thousand was
Oh, a lot of
that
money.
was a lot of
Yeah.
money back then. So they kind of
Yeah.
very wealthy.
They were the uppity. They ended
Oh,
up being the uppity
oh yeah, oh
savage.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So uh, Uncle Buddy,
Did they move across the tracks away from everybody?
you know what they were on? They moved down Martin Grade, the grade when you come off of there,
Yeah.
and build a blockhouse first. It was
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
blockhouse first, and then they built a
Yeah.
real nice home there.
Yeah.
And Uncle Buddy kept a 12-foot alligator in a little old pond out back called Big Boy. That was his pet. He'd go out there and grunt that gator up. And
It's almost like the movie Lake
I,
Placid,
yeah,
where
so
the woman was feeding cows and deers to the
yeah,
alligator.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Uncle Buddy, of course, he's a big gator
Yeah.
hunter.
Yeah.
Him
Yeah.
and I'll tell you a story about that in a minute. So anyway, so when I got out of the service, I came over there to see Uncle Buddy, and I got up there and they had one of those little old Cub tractor mowers. That's
Yeah.
what they
Yeah.
cut the
Yeah.
yard
Yeah.
with, and it was sitting there close to the back door and everything. And Uncle Buddy, I said, "Uncle Buddy, you still got Big Boy out there?" And he go, "Yeah, son." And he grunted that gator up, and that gator came out of that pond. And I'm not lying. I
Yeah.
jumped on that Cub tractor,
Yeah.
and that gator ran him to the back door. And just as he slammed that door, that gator hit that door like that. And he thought that was fine. I'm thinking, oh man, and he was old man then, you know. JTH,
I mean, basically, if you would have got a phone call and said, "Big boy got a hold of Buddy," he's a gone, it would have not surprised you at all.
so there
Yates.
was an old man named JT Yates. He stuttered all the time.
Uh
He
huh.
came he came out. I remember Jay and Uncle Buddy grunted that gator up. Old
Yeah.
Big Boy hit that fence right there,
Yeah.
hit that fence like that. And JT jumped about fell backward. He said, Now, Claddy, that gator damn sure catch you." But yeah, he was known for having
What
that
it?
gator in his back.
Don't you have a picture of him sitting on a gator
Yeah, yeah,
smoking a cigarette,
yeah, yeah,
rolled up a cigarette and
yeah.
smoked
Sitting
it?
on back where he caught that gator.
Yeah,
And Uncle Buddy, one thing remember, he had those old. Always wore the khaki shirts,
yeah,
jeans. And I don't ever remember, unless he was going into a flag pond or anything. He wore brogans,
uh-huh,
no socks,
yeah,
and unless he was going into a flag pond or something, I don't ever remember that old man ever lacing those brogans.
really,
Yeah, just put his feet in them and go.
yeah,
Um, and cow hunted, and he had this thing was that of course, he didn't get saved till I led him to the Lord and baptized
yeah,
back before he died.
yeah,
But he believed that God owned this country, man didn't.
yeah,
Okay, and so when they put fences up, that didn't that didn't mean a thing to that old man.
yeah.
There's fences up, and he would literally cut the fence and drive his cows on somebody else's pastures.
And then when it was time
Graze
to
'em when
work,
they,
he'd go
that,
get 'em.
yeah, he'd go get them and bring them back out again because he's, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
Um, the one thing that I just, after I'd been in the ministry, I couldn't believe, and they actually got away with
yeah,
it. So evidently they had a fire, a woods fire,
uh-huh,
back off from Uncle Buddy's place on
y-
his property
yeah,
way back there. And of course, the state came in there, went
right,
back there, and had to cut the fence, get through,
yeah,
uh, to get back there and put the fire out. And they came back out. Now we're talking about state. We
yeah,
ain't talking about local. We're
yeah,
talking about state forestry.
yeah, yeah,
They come back. Well, Grandpa and Uncle Buddy standing there at the gate, and told them they had to fix that. I mean, at the fence.
yeah,
Told them they had to put that fence back together again. And they said we don't have. We're state. We don't have to. Because of thing.
yeah,
Those two old men held guns on and had them. Now we're not talking about in the early 1900s or anything.
yeah,
We're probably talking about probably in the nine. Let me see. It may be and after I went up. So we're talking about the Uncle Buddy. I mean, Grandpa died in '81. We're talking about the '80s or '70s
early
and the
80s,
'70s. And so
70s,
we're not talking about
yeah,
something
yeah,
thing. And so they sent a deputy out there,
yeah, yeah,
and who was it? Maybe Aunt Norma tell me that Uncle Buddy Uncle Buddy told me said hell son, he said, I just soon shoot you now. Said I got plenty of money. Time they run it through the courts.
yeah,
Said I'll be dead anyway. You know. Said, Miss Savage, I'm gonna go back check on this. And as far as I know, nothing ever happened to
yeah.
him. Man, they'd have FBI, SWAT teams, and
Oh
everything
yeah.
else out there.
Now, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and also they probably already had a reputation in that whole county
Oh,
from Martin to West Palm to wherever. Everybody knew who the Savage
well,
bunch was.
well, Pappy told me, and
Hmm.
this after Carol and I got married, when he came from California, living there
Yeah.
in Stewart and everything. I think the agriculture man was Levi Johnson then. And they had Savages. It was kind of a beer joint,
Yeah.
Savages out there in Tropical Farm.
Yeah.
And he told me that he went with Levi one time and went in that Savage's place and
Yeah.
everything. And when they went in there, it was Uncle Barney and Grandpa and Claddy.
Yeah.
And he told Joe, he said, "Don't say nothing to
Those
those
three.
three men right there." He says, "Well," he said, "yeah." He said, they're probably the three meanest men in the camp. No, make that the state.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, they had that kind of reputation, and so Aubrey, which was Gladys'
Right.
son,
Right.
we were talking one day, and just tell you now, Aubrey it was amazing, Warren.
Well,
I
what I think we need to save the Aubrey stuff for the next time.
oh, okay. Well,
Yeah,
but I just
yeah,
um. So anyway, Uncle Buddy, one of the stories there was Roy Baker was a sheriff.
uh huh,
Okay, of Martin County,
yeah,
and I think I'd gotten out of service. I'd come over there one night, and uh, Claddy had his two sons there,
uh
little Claddy and Joe. And oh, Joe, no, he only had Joe then. So I came over there to see Uncle Buddy. It was tonight,
yeah,
and Roy and Uncle Buddy was there, and they were drunker and Cooter Brown, both of them. And they went over there, and Uncle Buddy asked Roy if he wanted some steaks. Joe was there sitting on the floor, crawling around on the
yeah,
floor in his diapers.
right.
And so Uncle Buddy goes to the freezer and gets out two steaks. Now I'm talking about frozen steaks,
Frozen
and
steaks.
puts them in the pan, okay, and 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 just fries them up on one side, turn them over on the other
And they
side,
ate them.
and they ate them like
Okay.
that. Sit there and ate them. And little Joe, I can remember this because I left after that.
Yeah.
I didn't even want to be in that. Uh, little Joe comes crawling over there. Well, Roy always carried. He didn't have a pistol belt or
Yeah.
anything on him. He just had his uniform, and he was wearing his uniform
Right.
now.
Right. Right.
And little Joe comes over there crawling, and Roy always carried a little 25, if I remember,
Yeah.
25 nickel plated automatic.
Yeah.
He gives that youngin that automatic. That little old young has just got it all in his mouth, and I think I need to leave
I
here.
need to
I don't
leave
even know
because I
what.
don't want to be a
I don't.
witness to
No,
this.
I don't want to
Yeah.
be the witness of that kind of stuff. But Uncle Buddy was about as tough, and yet he loved youngins.
Now, Uncle Buddy, you are referring to your granddad.
No,
No,
no, Uncle Buddy Papa was his brother Claddy.
was Claddy.
Claddy.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Now,
Oh,
which one? Which one was it? Was it Hobby?
that's
That
my
that's
granddaddy.
your granddad. But was it Hobby or Claddy with the WWE wrestling? Which one
With a what?
with the wrestling? Or
Oh,
which
Uncle
one?
Buddy.
Which one was that?
Okay, that was Claddy.
That was Claddy.
That was
Okay,
Claddy. So,
yeah. So that's a great. Uh, our friend Tommy.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
Tommy Smith,
yeah,
Odenville, Alabama.
yeah,
He comes down to see me.
yeah.
Well, you have to understand Uncle Buddy Claddy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he believes that WWE was real. I mean,
Yeah,
it was real,
yeah,
and so I can remember him. Uh, one night, Aubrey had to, or I was talking with him, and it was about they had barred him at one time from, from going to the wrestling matches because he tried to get in.
yeah,
And I said, Uncle Buddy, I said, what? I mean, what do you do if they, uh, you know, oh, he said, son, I just go out there in a truck and get my pistol. He said, I'll kill all them.
yeah,
So and so.
yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah,
didn't bother him a bit. So we're over there. And I understood when you went to Uncle Buddy's house and WWE, you didn't, unless you were there to watch, you didn't say squat,
yeah.
okay, unless you were cheering and
Right, right, right.
egging on. So Tommy, he's always running his mouth
Uh huh.
at Tom.
And you told Tommy,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
tell
So
him,
so
tell
I
him,
told Tom, I said, when we were watching it, it finally came to commercial. It was over, and
because he wouldn't talk to you
oh no, he
while it
was
was on.
no,
That's
he
like that was like even when I went to college, that was like a woman watching Young and Restless. You
oh
did not,
you didn't say
you
nothing.
didn't say nothing.
No, you
Yeah,
didn't
yeah,
say nothing,
yeah,
Uncle Buddy.
yeah,
So we waited until it was over, and well, son, how you doing? And I said, I'm fine. And I introduced him to Tommy. I said, you know, Uncle Buddy. I said, Tommy says all that stuff is fake, and Tommy didn't even know about it. Oh, we had to listen. Tommy said he still remembers that. That old man started walking up one side. Yeah, it's fake. And he just kept on about that. That was the funniest thing. And that old man used to catch I'd go down to where he lived, close to his son in Arcadia, and that old man would catch these wild hogs, bull hogs,
Yeah.
because he loved to hunt hog, Lord, worse than anybody I ever known. And he built pens down there
Yeah.
where he could separate them by hand
Yeah.
and fight them. That's what he'd do is he'd go down there and fight them boar hogs. He'd turn one loose on. Lord have mercy. And I've seen him hit the side of that house with
And
a
kids say they ain't,
case of beer.
hey, kids say they ain't got nothing to do. I mean, come on.
Now, now that's just one brother. Can you imagine growing up around those type of people?
Oh, dude,
That's who my
yeah,
family was.
yeah, you
That's
taking your life in your own hands because if you don't do what they're doing, you're not a man.
Oh no,
Yeah,
oh no. You
yeah,
just I mean they and stop and think about this. If you were growing up around that, that's why I hid that from your mama. I wouldn't let her introduce her all my family up around
dude,
Christmas until
yeah,
after we were married.
yeah,
Man.
dude. The funniest story I know, and we'll end with this tonight, but
Okay.
the funniest story I remember you telling me was when you finally decided to introduce mom to the family and
Oh,
took her to dinner or lunch or something. And understand my mom is more of a city girl and dad takes her and you have to understand the way the everybody grew up, the cracker life was the women would work all day and they're cooking all the food and everything. The men just chilling out, shooting the crap, probably drinking their beer, whatever. And then when it was time for uh for him to come get the food, well, the men and the children were allowed to come get the food, and the women had to wait,
the children went off and the men sat at the table.
sat at the table and ate, and the women had to wait till the men were done, and then they could get their food after the men were done.
Yes, yes.
And just go ahead and say what mom said.
She won't ever do that again. She ain't gonna go. Yeah, women to be in the kitchen talking and all that.
Yeah,
And I don't mean the men just ate and just got up.
yeah, they ate and
Talked a little bit.
smoked a
Yeah, yeah,
cigarette.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Now, when we get, we'll find
yeah,
that
yeah,
because that's just one, and
yeah,
I may remember some more stories, but uh, those were actually things I experienced. But now, when we get into the Yates,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
wait till you hear about when your mama,
Uh,
when I took her to introduce
The
to
Christmas
the
side.
Christmas crowd, the
Yeah,
Yates up there.
but
That's a whole
but
different world.
can you imagine how the feminists would react
Oh,
to that? Oh my gosh, they would. Uh, I mean, their head would probably explode. Could you imagine?
no. First of all, they can't imagine. They wouldn't know.
Yeah,
And could you imagine a feminist
yeah,
coming up to one of the Savage girls
yeah.
and start
Tell
telling?
you ain't gotta
y-
do that. You can eat with them.
Listen, that would be worse than saying, "Hey, Bubba, hold my beer."
Yeah.
That would.
Yeah.
But I can't see. I can't even go, and they can't because they've
No.
never. And they talk. But look, we've got these people talk about Savage. They were college. There were many Savage, college educated. Their
Yeah.
business on
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's just a life, the way you were raised,
Yes. Yes.
and part of that way you were raised was simply being a what we were raised in. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. You
Yeah.
respected your elders and things like
You
that.
were a decent human being.
But as mean or like Uncle Buddy was the toughest.
Yeah.
Uncle Barney was the cruelest. Grandpa was the gentlest, but he'd kill you.
Yeah.
Uh, but they all loved kid. I mean,
Yeah.
tolerated kid. You didn't mess with a kid around them.
Right. Right.
You know,
Right.
you might mess with a man or something like
Right.
that, but those kids were off limit,
Yeah.
and they'd teach those kids anything they
Well,
wanted to
you
learn.
know how we have all the, the child sex slaves and all that now today, but back then, if somebody was accused of that, they'd hang that
Oh yeah,
man,
yeah, they
or
really
they'd
would.
hang the person that was enslaved them or whatever. They wouldn't tolerate it, and we got to a point where we tolerate things now,
Yeah, yeah,
and is sad. I mean, you almost wish it was back the way it was, where you use hands and just whoop somebody's butt
yeah.
if you had a disagreement with them.
You just
And
well, why do you think my daddy moved up to New Jersey?
why?
Well, Uncle Bud and Grandpa and them.
Yeah,
I
they.
don't care how tough
Oh,
my granddaddy was.
yeah,
Now, my daddy, at one time, me, my sister, and my brother were left with Grandpa and Grandma.
yeah,
When my daddy had a nightclub, and we were left 3 months till they told them to come get us.
yeah.
But I'm telling you right now, Daddy knew
That if he
that
did what he
Grandpa,
did,
yeah, if it, oh, yeah,
he would have been hung, or he'd have been in the
well,
alligator
they'd have
pit
killed him.
somewhere.
Yeah, he'd been in a
Big
gator hole.
boy,
Yeah,
big
yeah,
boy would
big
big
boy
boy
had
would have
him
had some
lunch.
lunch. Yeah,
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 yeah, that's usually a narcissist is the type
yeah,
of person get them away from the family,
yeah.
and
That's
that's
right.
what happened,
Yeah,
Mama.
yeah.
But yeah,
All right. Well, that's the start of it.
that's
There's
the start.
plenty of stories,
Oh,
because
and there's still some
yeah.
family to go.
Oh yeah, and then once we're done with that, we're gonna get into uh the move down to Florida in 1981,
Oh
when
yeah,
basically, I mean, you work cattle, but when your cattle career started for a little bit,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
And your whole world, you're a Missy,
Yeah,
and our whole world changed
yeah,
when we
when we
got
moved
back to
here.
our heritage.
Yes, yes, and moved back to Lake Placid,
Yeah, yeah,
and that's why I call this home, even though I wasn't didn't grow up here, but it's home to me. So
absolutely.
yeah. So anyway, appreciate y'all hanging out with us this Friday night, and we'll see you next week. And hope y'all have a good weekend. Hold on one second. We got to go out. We got to go out with a bang. Where am I at? Oh, there we are. All right. Let's go out with a bang. Later.